Identify hazards, assess and control safety risks. So in this unit, what we're going to learn today, we're going to learn how to access and use hazard identification and the risk assessment tools and documents, how to identify actual or foreseeable hazards in the workplace, how to work alone or with other personnel to identify hazards, how to keep record of identified hazards. So I'll find out actually a few contents for this unit today. The content is, I'm going to explain to you as well. So you're going to learn in this unit today about the hazards and how you're going to identify the hazard in your working place and what could be the risk and how we're going to manage this risk, and we learn some sort of methods for identifying hazards, correct? And also we're going to find out some laws as well. So what is the workplace safety laws in Australia? This is very, very important to know for all of you, because you are going to work in Australia and you guys are going to play a very big role in Australian hospitality industry. So anything we're going to learn is related to the hospitality industry in this course. Yeah. So we want to learn what is the hazard is. So hazard is any situation or things that has the potential to harm a person. Okay. So the example like the identification, how you going to identification, like people get injured in the working place. I want to give you the example like when you work in the restaurant, let's say you forgot to put sign oil flow caution. Rather than you put that oil sign or the caution sign and you actually did the mop on the floor, and somebody entered the restaurant, the floor was tiles and they actually didn't realize the floor is oil and somebody fell down. What can happen? They can see it. You know what I mean? So it's very important, you gotta be put the sign to reduce the risk, reduce the hazard. Yeah? And also the identifications, this is the one way. Another way, when you're working in the kitchen, yeah, you actually didn't wear the safety shoe. Okay, so what happened? While you run in the kitchen, it could be the oil anytime on the floor, could be watery on the floor, like could be oil anytime on the floor. So if you don't have the safety shoe, even though you know that the kitchen is always very busy and you're working, you're doing so many stops. So you have to have the safety shoe. So if you don't have the safety shoe, you could be fell down. Your arms could be break down, your legs could be break down. So it's your responsibility, you got to wear the safety shoes and make sure you maintain your safety in working place. Yep. And also another example is could be if you work in the deep fryer and actually you're not really very careful, or you carrying by yourself in the deep fryer the whole big pot with the hot oil. So what happened when you're carrying by yourself and you actually not carrying with safely, and it is not safe when you carry like a 10 kilos of oil by yourself carrying the two hand, it's not good. So you're going to get somebody else to help you out, or until you feel not safe, don't carry that. You know? That could be the big accident. So this is like related to the work, what is the hazard is and how you're going to find out the hazard identifications. You know, you understand that example? All clear? So now you know what could be the risk, how you're going to find out the identification for the hazard. Yeah. So another one is there could be a few types of hazard. So I'd like to mention you the types of the hazard is like the physical environment. So physical environment is it could be the crowds, block walkways. When you walk on the footpath, or let's say even when you walk in the kitchen, like the walkways you're running in the busy service time, and somebody standing in there and talking in there, and you're actually running around too much to do the service properly, and you know the rushing time. That's what the people do in a lot of times. Okay, someone blocking the ways and you actually run, and somebody get hit from you. So what happened? Somebody got injured, or somebody maybe had a bit of pain or something like that. So it is very important, and also those things happen in the physical environment stuff and the crowds as well. You know, when you guys talk loud, you know, make a sound very loud. So what happened? Other people get disturbed, you know, and you lose your concentrations. So those are things happen in physical environment. And another one is the working practices is like a security issues. So that should be the robbery. Like if someone does the robbery in your place, you know, destroy the things, and could be like the customer behaviors like such as aggressive. Some customers are drunk. You know, let me tell you, you find out a lot of drunk people on the street. You know, they're going to disturb you. They're going to harass you. So you have to have this intention. You're going to face something like that as well. And even the customer service. When you guys do the customer service job, you will see some people is like that. They talk like the aggressive voice. I would like to share you one experience to you. One of the customer, they came in the cafe when I was working before, about 7-8 years before. They are ordered for the one sandwiches, and that sandwich is the vegetarian sandwich. And they say, how much is the sandwich? And I said, this is $6.50. They said, why are you charging $6.50? Because the other person is charging only $2.50 or $3.50. But why are you charging too much? It's a $6.50. I said, excuse me, sir. This is on the price list in there. So we are actually charging the $6.50. We don't know how much charging the other people or the other cafes. So that's what we're charging, and that's what the menu is, $6.50. But to give you the example, to make you the clear ideas, you find out some customers are aggressive, they talk to you like that. So you should have that intention. You'll find out in your working place, people are like that. All clear? Okay. So another one is the chemical hazards. So chemical can exist as a gas, dust, liquids, smoke, etc. Gas, like let's say you didn't turn on the gas. Do you know if you don't turn on the gas and if something happened because of the gas explode everywhere, if people stay around there, a lot of people could die. You know? So to avoid this hazard and risks, make sure you're going to be avoid these chemical stuffs, like even the liquids. So what kind of liquids? Let's say sometimes you use the liquids to pump up some sort of the fire stuff in the restaurant, or even like the barbecue stuff. When you put the liquids, things, the gas stuff, or like the chemical stuff. So make sure you're going to be put in a safe place. So after you use them, make sure you're going to be turn off everything. Otherwise, it could be the very big problem. Even the other liquids could be the bleach. Can you imagine if any bleach, anything, but you never realize this mixed up with the food a little bit, and you actually didn't wash the food, and you didn't realize it is something, but you actually can't see anything from the eyes. You know what I mean? So even before you use anything, you wash that to avoid and to reduce the risks and hazard. Clear? Understand? Okay. So another one, we're going to do the biological hazards, like the mods and fungi, human and animal waste, bacteria and viruses such as food poison based stuffs. So how food poison can be happen, or bacteria can be happen. I think I'll give you that example the last thing as well. When you put the cool room, some sort of food, you see the mods in there, and people think still smell is alright. So what they do, they take off the mud from the top, and the middle part they still use. But it looks alright, it is not the bacteria free. So never use that. So to avoid this, if you find out something like that, always throw in the bin. Don't even think twice. You may think it is still smell alright, but some people get very sick with the food poison. Yeah? Clear? And also psychosocial hazards, so customer aggressions, we already talked about it a bit. So you know that some people are the psycho, they stay with these rules. No one have the compromise mentality. And as we faced last week with our other students, remember? And one of the person is harassing her, and it's a bit of aggressive way. So sometimes with your smart and diplomatical attitude, you can reduce the risk, you can sort out the problem, and you can gain a lot more than you go with the debate scenario or you go with the argument scenario. You know what I mean? So rather than arguing or dividing, sometimes with the apology mentality and sacrifice mentality, you gain more and you learn more. That's what we learned the last week. That's what it's teaching us as well. Everything is relating with our circumstances are here. We just need to find out and figure out with the diplomatic thinking and smart ways. Okay? So that's what we have learned, the types of the hazards. So you know now what types of hazards are and what types of hazards we're going to find out in our working place. Okay? And okay, so after this we're going to learn today about the risks at work. Yep. So the risk is, let's say you want to get the box from the shop. I better give you that example, give you more clear ideas. So if you want to get the box from the shop, so what happened? A lot of people, they're working in a restaurant and they rush too much. And they think it's too busy, they don't have enough time, and they just jump to get the stuffs. Like the box from the top shelf. So what happened when you jump on the top shelf, when you get the box, you fell down, break yourself, get injured, So do not get anything or do not try to rush with anything until you are not feeling safe. Or until you are not feeling safe for yourself and for the other person. You know what I mean? So this is the kind of risk, you're actually taking the risk to get the stuffs from the top shelves. That's what a lot of people do. You know what I mean? Even in my working place, I saw few people, they did like that. And it's not good, but one day, even for personally myself, I was nearly falling down because of, lifting up the whole box and jumping to take from the box on the top shelf. I was in a rush. So that was the real example with myself. And I have learned from my mistake. But I was very lucky. It was very little things, I didn't fall down. But I was thinking, if I could be fell down, I could be, and I've got a big injury in myself. So never rush like that. And also, if you see some sort of risk, unexpected, sometimes by unexpectations, the things will happen. You know what I mean? Like you actually try to be careful, and some reason it's happened. So if it's happened, you have to take some steps. As we learned last week, you know what I mean? If you get the injured, make sure you get the first aid stopped and you call the police or the ambulance. I mean, you got to call the ambulance, 000, call the ambulance, and make sure you go to the hospital. But anyways, the working place, when you have some of the other people in there, everybody's need to help each other. That's what they're learning from each other, and that's what we're learning in the industrial zone. But we try our best, as much as possible, we try to avoid the risk. And how are we going to manage our risk? We're going to manage our risk is like the risk management is all about the reducing risk of injury, illness, or damage by identifying hazards and controlling risk. There are 4 steps: identify hazards, assess risk, control risk, or review control measures. Okay? So there is the 4 steps and also the risk management approach is rarely stays in the same level, which is very true. When you work in the restaurants, the risks, they never stay in the same level. You know that. So, do you understand what I mean? So what do you understand about this doesn't stay in the same level? Can you tell me, Darsana?
Hierarchies, that makes a lot of difference. I can't explain it in a more...
Okay, alright. So when you work in the kitchen, let's say, you do always different things, different movement, different running, the different ways, the stops you're making. So that means you think your working is staying in the same level every time? No. So what is teaching us, even the risk is not staying in the same level. You know what I mean? So they're always in the various, stays in a different level. So that's what it's saying to us. And with each change or reassessment must take place to ensure that all safety hazards and risks are identified before you do that. Before you do your stuff, you're going to identify to save yourself and to save the other person, other colleagues, or other staff. You need to identify before you do the stuff. You understand? So that way, you can reduce your risk level and you can manage your risk level to reducing down. Clear? Okay. So that's what we have learned from this topic, and now we're going to learn what are the methods help you to identify the hazards. We talk about the methods. So the methods is observing work practices is only one way to identify hazards. There are additional ways to identify actual or foreseeable hazards that have the potential to harm the health and safety of workers or anyone else in the workplace. Does anybody understand that? Whatever I say? Okay. So while you're going to observe in your workplace, like you guys going to be observing the OS, how you're going to do the things, and how the other person is going to do the things in the working place. Let's say somebody working on the footpath, okay, and some other people blocked in the one side, okay. So you just not watching properly and walking on the street, you know what I mean, and you're hitting the person. But in that case, it's happened. Sometimes when I go to the station, I stay in the escalator, and some other people running from the back, they don't even watch, they just jump and hit, So you're going to fall down, and it's like it's could be injured in the nose, you know what I mean? So the methods is teaching us in that topics. When somebody walking and doing like that in the scenario, make sure you're going to be keep your observation. So this is kind of observing the other person and the carefulness with yourself. You understand? Have you got clear? And even in the cooking stuff, when you work in the kitchen, like you cooking in the fry pan, right? And somebody is just running in front of you, and he actually taking the fry pan out like that. And what happened? It's a very hot food. Somebody run, all the food fell down on the floor. You got injured, other person got injured. You want his soul, and you have to be hospitalized. You need to go to the ambulance. So like that, make sure you gotta keep an eye and observe and understand and look around. So that way you can reducing your hazard stops a lot, and you're going to find out a lot of things in the working place. And another example, you just use a very hot pot, like you cook the food in a very big hot pot, and that pot is very hot, and you put in the washing section, somebody washing the dishes, you actually didn't inform somebody else, this is very hot, careful while you touch that and while you're putting in the sink. And what happens, someone else starts that and actually burns themselves. I did a few times with myself. I touched the very hot tongue. I didn't realize it is very hot, but while I touched the tongue, it was very hot, and straight away I burned my finger. So that's what you're going to see in your real working place. Some people walking with a knife. I have seen in the practical class yesterday, one of the person walking with the knife and carrying the knife like that, and walking just like that with the knife, okay? Just like that. So you actually can't walk with a knife like that. While the blade side, you have to put it down and you walk, or you cover it with the tea towels and you walk. So a very big risk. Let's say if somebody run and knife is like that, what will happen? Straight away is putting in the stomach. Very bad. So you have to be very, very careful, and you learn today what is the risk and how you find out and calculating the methods are with observing wise. Clear? Okay. And another stuff is in here. We want to learn about the workplace roles and responsibilities. It's a very important topic. Like you guys are working, everybody works in a different field. So somebody give me that example, you're working in a restaurant, and some other people, you work in a port boating. So while you do in your working place, you do your job, you have some responsibilities in there. If you're awarding the responsibility, if you're careful with the responsibilities, with maintaining these responsibilities, you can reduce, you can control your risk a lot. Like you said, when you're turning around, you have to look, and it's a very big stress sometimes. So that means you're responsible. Can you imagine before you turning and looking at the back, if some people come, what's going to happen? And you start trying moving, you have a big accident. People could die, not just injure. So with you careful and with you maintaining responsibilities, you can reduce a lot of risks. Where a lot of risks happen without being responsible properly. So this is our responsibility to maintain and to be responsible the related stuff we are doing in the working place. Like you guys signing the assessment very on time, that means this is your responsibility to send it on time. So what happens if you don't send that on time? So this is a good example. If you don't send that on time, you get blocked and you have to pay the penalty. You understand? So that's what this units and these topics is teaching us. So we have to maintain our workplace responsibilities, that we can reduce a lot of risks and we can be safe a lot more than if we are not responsible. Yeah? And how are we going to find out? So we need to know the WHS. This is the workplace health and safety. Okay? If you go to the online, so there is a website is www.safeworkaustralia.gov.au. Okay? So if you go to the website, there is a lot of rules, regulations for the workplace health and safeties. So you find out a lot of them every time updating. So if you search in this website, you can see the update rules and regulations in there. So that will help you to find out the current updating everything for your workplace. So even if this is your responsibility to know what is the updates and everything in there, so that way you are aware about your responsibilities. You are conscious about your responsibilities and everything. And you also know if anything happened by mistake, what you can do. So if you have a look in that website, and I'm suggesting and advising you, keep an eye with this website and have a look. You learn a lot. And all the updates in there. Okay? So there is a laws about workplace health and safety in here. So the laws in all states and territories and the Commonwealth, they have the different laws. The making and enforcing their different laws on with WHS, Workplace Health and Safety. So every state, every territories have the different laws with workplace health and safety. So let's say I want to just talk about you with the Commonwealth of Australia has specific laws. We're talking about the Commonwealth one. But remember every state and every territories. So how many states and territories in Australia?
6.
Yes. And how many territories? I want you to find out, have a look in the Google and give me the answer. Okay? So if you find out by yourself, you learn better. I want you to find out by yourself, have a look and let me know. So it's 6 states and territories you find out and tell me how many is in there. So that you learn. So every state, they have their own laws and own regulations and territories as well. So the Commonwealth of Australia has specific laws relating to work, health and safety. So Work and Health Safety Act 2011. If you go in there, you'll find out. 2011.
No. 2 territories.
Yes. Good go. Thank you. I want you to find out the territories. Yes. There's 6 states and 2 territories in Australia. Yep. And another one is the Work Health and Safety Regulations 2011. So guys, see, look at that. That's give you the idea. Work Health and Safety Act. One is Act 2011. Another one is the Regulations 2011. So I'm going to explain to you what do you mean the Act and Regulations. So we have to understand about the legal jargon. So what is the legal jargon is? It's important to know and understand which documents to refer to the different decisions. Like as you mentioned, the Act. So what is the Act is? A law made by either the state parliament or federal parliament. This is called Act. So like Work Health and Safety Act 2011. So that Act made, this Act, whatever the law is made by the state parliament or the federal parliament. Clear? So another one is regulations. Those are the laws set out mandatory requirements under the Acts. So these laws set out under the Acts. It's linked with each other. So we find out in this jargon, the legal jargon, is another one is standards. So those established acceptable minimum levels or certain requirements relating to a range of issues such as quality, performance, construction designs, and certain hazard and control. This is the example for the standards. And regulations we have been already explained. If you go through with your study notes, you'll find out a lot. So those are the things you actually have to know to work and to understand and to doing the assessment preparation for your subject. Yep. So now, can I please ask what do you understand about the hazard, Tanvir? After the explanation, are you okay to say? Still, are you going to pen in tape? Is anybody can tell me? I'm not mentioning the name. What do you understand about the hazard? After the explanations, what do you understand the hazard? Rosanna?
It's basically one source of a danger where people have to be more careful about.
Yep.
They have to identify
Yep.
and to prevent it from a loss.
Yes.
You know, that's
Yep,
the
yep.
hazard.
Yep, that's correct. That's very good. So that means, it's potential harm to your people, So this is the hazard, and you're going to identify by yourself what could be that harms and how it's happened, and try to be more careful. And on the other hand, sometimes, without any expectations, by mistake, or the accident happened without any signal, that. So it's happened sometimes, but when it's happened, you have to get the help. Okay? So let's say you have the colleagues or something, make sure you're going to be called out to help you out. And they can help you out, they can give you the primary treatment if they have the first aid, or if they can't do anything, they can call the ambulance. The ambulance, so you have to be hospitalized straight away. If you get something like the burn oil or something like that, you know what I mean? So that's all the things. Does anyone have any questions, anything about this? No? So after this session, so what I want you to do, you just sit down all together, we make it groups, and you guys just start going to the discussion, each topic. I give you the overview, you're going to discuss each topic, and you do the preparation for the assessment, and if you need any help, I will come to you and I will suggest you. And I'm going to ask you a few questions after this. So the questions could be like that: hazard identifications, rules and regulations, risk management, whatever I said, everything. So it could be the questions like that. So I'm going to marking you from there as well. Okay? So you're going to be know that, and this is what you have to learn and you have to know. If you work in the industry, and you guys are going to work in the industry, and you guys are going to be the chefs. Yep? All clear? No questions? Nothing? Are you guys sure? No problem. Alright. So this is the end of the sessions for now.